Conservation Commission. This meeting of the Rowley Conservation Commission is hereby called to order under the authority of MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, the Town of Rowley Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Bylaw. I will now call the roll for attendance. Dave DeMonico, absent. Bob Garner,
Here.
Judy Keys, absent. Sam Strife,
Here.
Arthur Page,
Yep.
Kurt Turner,
Here.
Howard Vogel.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum present.
All right. Administrative?
Yes.
Is that what you're working on now? I
No,
know.
I was doing administrative stuff, but
Yeah.
I can certainly wait. A request for reimbursement for the $50 registration fee to the Keystone training I attended this weekend.
Congratulations on getting into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gives me something.
Sounds like you got more than $50 value out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, and Mr. Chairman, I did receive a receipt
Okay,
for
yeah.
you to initial. This one here. Thank you. Thank you. The next administrative item that was distributed was consideration of signing the license and indemnity agreement for the haying of the Brad Street Farm Conservation Area. The selectmen have already signed this document, and therefore what I have to pass around has the original signatures on it. So I just wanted you folks to review it, because when the commission considered this last November, this document wasn't prepared with the exact text, but we had a previous agreement that the selectmen and the Conservation Commission had entered into with Mr. Colby in 2012. And so this is modeled on that.
And I notice it's absent of the hay person's name, so with this license, he can have people, whomever he wants to hay.
Oh, it doesn't, yeah,
Right.
it doesn't specify that, that Mr. Sabatini, but Mr. Sabatini, being the licensee, does have the primary responsibility for any, any actions or any issues that arise out of whoever actually does the operations, per se.
I've read it, I have no problems with it.
Would the commission just please entertain a motion in regards to signing the
So
document?
moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Today is the 19th.
Yes.
What was this?
This is for Mike 17.
And the process is that once the commission has all signed it, I'm going to contact Mr. Sabatini to have him come in, sign, and provide address on the agreement, and then it will be distributed. The original will stay in Conservation Office,
Yep.
since it's conservation land. As well as I'll also have already also try to set an appointment to get together to deal with the restoration around the farm pond area.
Yeah, because you've given a date on that.
Yeah, yeah, I'll try and get that wrapped up by the end of June, so. Okay.
Sealed and delivered.
Now, there was no anticipation in regards to this item, so this item was previously unannounced, and that is, Commission had previously fielded a request from Essex County Greenbelt for emergency certification to replace leaking water supply lines that go to the 3 different structures down at Batchelder Landing. Unfortunately, they ran into, well, I'm told they ran into a delay with getting approval from the water department for the replacing of the water supply lines. So they asked if there was a way to either extend the emergency certification, and I said, well, I believe since that one was already issued and it had an expiration date, that it was cleaner to just issue a new one. So with the commission's approval, I have redrafted a new emergency certification whose start date is tomorrow and doesn't end until May 19th, which hopefully, I believe they've already got things pretty well ironed out with the water department. So, with a motion for issuance of said emergency certification for 9195 Railroad Avenue, Essex County, Greenbelt.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Good evening.
You have an explanation.
It's getting bigger.
I can read it right from here if you want. Okay.
It's right here, it was just not reason.
Okay, this brings us to our 7:45 item, and this is a legal notice, Raleigh Conservation Commission. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Law 131, Section 40, as amended, and the Town of Raleigh Wetlands Protection Bylaw, a public meeting will be held on Tuesday, April 19, 2016, at 7:45 p.m. at Room 5, the Town Hall Annex at 39 Central Street, to consider an abbreviated notice of research area delineation application filed by William H. Herrick, Lucia Herrick Realty Trust, for proposed delineations of a wetland resource area, including 2 Mill Road, map 5, parcel lot 105, at 40 Dodge Road, map 5, parcel 104, in Raleigh, Mass.
Would you like me to put this board up, or are you, you're all
Right,
good there?
you can, whichever.
Weasel, we've got it on the screen,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got,
we've got it on the.
We got it everything.
We've
Yeah.
got it
All right.
everywhere.
My name is Bill Manuel from Wetlands and Land Management, and this is an ANRAD application. There's no work proposed with this particular application. It is merely to verify the extent of the wetland boundaries on the property, and this is in anticipation of future soil testing. The intent of the soil testing is to select areas on the property that are completely outside of your jurisdiction. So if we can nail down the boundaries, then we can nail down where we can do soil testing. The plan is right up there on the screen. It's nice and big, so I'll just refer to that. There are 4 separate flag series on the property, and in a couple of locations there are perennial streams associated with the wetlands. This is,
It doesn't work on a screen.
yeah, it doesn't work on the screen.
Yeah, it just
Huh.
absorbs it right in, so, sorry about that.
This is Dodge Road, this is Mill Road, and this is the parcel. This is Upper Mill Pond over here. And this is the A series here. This is the B series, this is the C series, and the D series, and I'll walk you through those. The A series is a line of bordering vegetated wetland. It's a small fringe of bordering vegetated wetland that's generally within 10 feet or so of the bank of Upper Mill Pond. It extends from the property boundary all the way up to the dam, the old granite dam, which is right in here. And at the dam, the pond ceases and perennial stream begins. So from this point downstream is a perennial stream. The wetlands sort of meander near and far away from the stream. But we have riverfront area that extends 200 feet out from the stream. So this line here is riverfront area. And of course the BVW is right along here. The 100-foot buffer zone is right through here. Now this river goes off-site onto this property, basically to the east. We did not have survey permission to enter there, so this segment of the BVW and the riverfront is approximated. So we've extended that line onto the subject property. So this would be the approximate riverfront area, and this would be the approximate buffer zone from those wetland systems. And I briefly read Brent's memo. We will amend the plan to denote which are solid buffer zone or riverfront and which are approximate. The B series wetland delineation is over in this area. It's actually just off property. This is also a perennial stream. And so we flagged in the field flags, I think B1 to B15 or thereabouts, and there's mean annual high water flags that are pretty coincident with the stream. And so there's a 100-foot buffer zone and a 200-foot riverfront area. That's the farthest extent of your jurisdiction over there. The C series is another bordering vegetated wetland that flows through a culvert under Mill Road and eventually off-site. This may have been some kind of dug feature. There's an earthen dam just about in here that looks like it impounded water some time ago. Within the interior of this wetland there are trees that are fairly large, probably 40, 50 years old, in that range somewhere, maybe 30 to 50. But the boundary was pretty much controlled by a good break and slope, and the soils were very, very concise between the upland and the wetland. And then the last system that is shown on the plan is this area here. It is the D series, and it's I suppose you can call it isolated wetland. It actually has a connection to a catch basin and a drain that enters just about in this vicinity, but there are no streams coming in and out of this wetland. At the time of my field work this spring, I did observe 5 egg masses. I didn't look at it very closely because I quickly found 5 egg masses. That would be sufficient to characterize this area as a vernal pool. Once again, we will make the plan more clear to determine or to depict what's the vernal pool habitat. versus a 100-foot buffer zone. So that's the extent of it. As I say, we're trying to locate areas that we can do soil testing outside of our jurisdiction.
Any questions from the committee?
Havel Street's up this corner of the map, right?
Correct, the lower right corner.
Any questions from the audience?
Oh,
You have nothing to say?
well, I believe I've said what appropriately needed to be said in the memorandum, requesting some revisions. All in all, Manuel and I did a fairly extensive traverse of the property. We didn't bother with the homeless hacienda in the center since that was uplands.
But we saw it from one side and walked around and saw it from the other
On
side.
the other
so-
side, there was no signs of any further depressions or anything else in the extent of the property that does not have depicted wetland resource areas in it, so. So if the commission would so choose, it would seem appropriate to consider voting to issue an order of resource area delineation confirming the depicted delineation subject to review of revised plans that add the above listed items and is received by the office within 14 days.
I will move that.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Oh, Brett, do you want these receipts?
Sure. Yep. Glad to have those. Thanks very much.
Look at there. So it looks like.
Were you expecting to hear from the railroad at all?
No,
No, okay.
No, I honestly wasn't.
So we can proceed even though we're early, or?
Yeah, there's no reason why not. I mean, we only incur the liability that if someone comes in, we'll possibly have to restart or repeat, whatever.
Yeah, but do you foresee anybody?
Like I said, I had one phone call today that asked me about the vegetation management plan, and I first sent them the information about where to locate it, and then it, I was figuring that if it was going to be time-consuming for me to come up with it, I'd just give them where to go to get it, but then I found it right off, and I just PDF'd it and emailed it right to them, so.
Okay, this will bring us to our 8 o'clock item.
I've got a question too on that.
Okay. We'll get plenty of time.
You're not contemplating going out and riding the rails again on this?
Actually, I am.
When are you going to do that?
Well, that's kind of undetermined at this point in time, since I have to take this federally mandated training. And that isn't going to occur until, what was it, May 5th, I think I said in the memorandum?
Right, sure.
And then usually what we do is I'll just coordinate with when they have some kind of maintenance team going up and down the tracks and accompany them. The reason I've been trying to have that happen over the last couple of years is, of course, the very harsh winter that we have. The whole spraying regimen is keyed into colored paint marks on the inside of the rails. And those paint marks do need to be refreshed. And I had tried to get a visit with the railroad, I think it was a year ago.
They had 2 white trucks and a team walking it today,
Yeah,
so that's
yeah.
good thing that they were doing.
because the no spray and the limited spray areas are keyed in to just these paint marks on either inside portions of the rail, if I remember correctly. And so functionally, this does, if the paint flakes off or gets rubbed off or isn't there, then what we just go through in regards to trying to protect sensitive resource areas goes for naught. So I'm kind of a practical kind of guy. I'd rather go out and do a visit and make sure the paint is nice and visible and everybody's aware of where it is, than just assuming that the paint marks are out there.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
And the agent does the same thing in Haverhill. It's not so much that we think the wetland resource areas have moved, because we know that things are usually relatively stable along the rail corridor, so I don't expect that the streams have changed or anything else like that.
All right.
Brought that up because I went out with Brent once on one of these, and it was an enjoyable experience, and I would encourage anyone else to sign up.
Yeah, but now you gotta
Now
take
you
this
gotta go see.
4-hour training.
Learn how to sit on a train? A car?
Actually, it's for just exactly to avoid what just happened down in
Oh,
Philadelphia.
yeah, when the guy put the backhoe too close, or,
No, he was on the wrong rail.
oh, he was. Oh, my
The
goodness.
backhoe was sitting on the active rail.
On the active. All right, let me read the legal here.
I got one more question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, it's in regards to this.
Whatever happened to the gun range thing that was on the training?
They addressed it.
With the lead.
Well, what happened to that was that the inspection was held with the MBTA folks and Keolis, and the Raleigh Police Department also came along. And the MBTA, after they ascertained that the direction from where anybody using that backstop, that they weren't aiming towards the active rail, they were just like, oh, well, by the way, this isn't our property, this is actually owned by Pan Am Rail, so you need to write to them. So I'm actually waiting for Gene to come back into the office to redo my correspondence and send it back out, but.
So their concern was liability of their
Oh, well, for sure.
people shooting at their trains.
Oh, for
Just
sure. I mean, they admitted that there was one of them that said that he was not sleeping well at night because he was worried that
People were shooting
if
at his trains.
they were shooting towards the direction
Yeah,
of
that
where
was trains.
the commuter rail was. I mean, that would definitely be a big issue.
Well, he ought to be worried anyway. If somebody's standing there with a gun and shooting at targets here, there's nothing that prevents them from turning around and taking shots in the other direction.
Well, there's also nothing that says someone might be walking in the marsh or be walking on the knoll on the other side of where this thing is pointing to. But this did also, the assessors ended up correcting their records, because of course I went by their records and thought that it was owned by the Mass Bay Transportation Authority, but, so that's been corrected, and now the tax bill is going to the correct
It's Pan Am, something
Pan Am Rail. Pan Am Rail.
like the airlines?
They apparently, I believe they own railway corridor in Haverhill. I think Haverhill's about to buy an abandoned section of rail from them for a rail trail. So they apparently, they had ownership of various parcels
Interesting.
around here.
Thank you. I'm through.
Well, it brings us to 8 o'clock. Okay, there's the 8 o'clock item. Legal notice, Raleigh Conservation Commission. With the accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Law 131, Section 40, as amended by the Town of Raleigh Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Public hearing will be held on Tuesday, April 19th, 2016, 8 p.m. at the Town Hall Annex located at 39 Central Street, to consider the request for determination of application filed by Fair Demity Consulting Engineers on behalf of Kias Commuter Services for the application of herbicides along the MBTA's right-of-way as per the Vegetation Management Plan, possibly within regulated wetland resources in Raleigh, Massachusetts.
So, just a second here. See if I can't.
While you're doing that, can I ask a question? So do all the other towns that are bordering going through the same issue?
I don't know, I
Yes.
mentioned this
Yes.
to Brent, because they've been
Yes.
spraying for years, you know, but I guess their
But yes,
permit
but they-
expired or
So
something.
they
Yeah.
have to get permission from every town.
Well, no, it's not permission.
It's,
They actually don't need permission, because what you're gonna vote on tonight is the fact that they qualify for the exemptions
okay,
under the Wetlands Protection Act. So this is only to establish where wetland resource areas either cross or intersect with their railway corridor, because when they come to water
they have to
courses,
reduce.
they need, well, or no spray.
Right.
They have either no spray or limited spray areas. So basically when their vegetation management plan expires, and it's either a 5-year or a 10-year duration for it, when it expires, and they quote-unquote are renewing it or refiling it,
Yeah,
it's treated as an application all over again.
so that's what.
And they need to go back to the individual communities where they are going to do this, and they need to verify that something hasn't changed, that things haven't changed,
Okay,
that the resource areas. Now, in most cases with an active rail line corridor, things might not change, but of course, you know, with climate change and stuff like that in the future, this may actually have some implications of salt marsh and other things coming up and actually starting to move, you know, against the berm of the railway corridor. That may happen. In freshwater wetland areas, you can have work that may, you know, realign things or may, but yeah, the water courses of streams, rivers, they don't usually change, and so they'll usually be in the same fixed point. But the other thing they also do is they notify the Board of Health, because they do have to check about where private wells are also. In our situation in the town of Rowley, there aren't an awful lot, there are some, but there aren't an awful lot of private residences that are in direct adjacency to the rail corridor. There are some, I'm not gonna say there aren't any, but not quite as many as you sometimes see in other communities where everybody's, the rail corridor goes along hundreds of backyards and stuff, as well as the fact that in a more rural area like this, they do need to be cognizant about wells and that particular issue.
Looks to me like it's pretty much just, I know there's a creek going underneath that
Here it
one,
is, yeah.
and then of course you got the river, and the very far end is in Newbury. There's a residence right there.
Yeah, so there's the Rowley River on the boundary line of Rowley and Ipswich, and you'll see there's a yellow dot there. Then there's a section, I think, of limited spray, which actually corresponds, I think, to the platform, the yard. And then as you get up towards Newbury, there's another major creek crossing that's indicated in yellow on there, but not quite as wide as the Rowley River. So that's really the two areas.
Oh, there's another one.
Are you able to see those on there?
There's a residence right there.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
see
that's
that
pretty
one,
cut and dry.
see the yellow, that's
Yeah.
up there towards Newbury? And then as we come down, there's the area where the actual commuter rail station is that doesn't have any spraying. And then there's the Rowley River on the bottom by number 31. Other than that, not a lot of features to worry about
No.
in the town of Rowley.
So do we entertain a vote on this?
Well, let's discuss first whether you wish to vote contingent upon my actually performing the field inspection.
If you'd,
Well, let me say this, I think it's a good idea for Brent to do the field inspection, but, I don't think we need to tie it to a mandated contingency, because the scheduling of the railroad, and who knows when someone's got a sick day or something else and can't make it, and they're just gonna go ahead and do it. I think we just,
I think they actually might have done it, but that wouldn't, you could still inspect.
Well, again, according to the vegetation management plan, they are not slated to perform any type of treatment.
No, not the treatment, but I mean of
Oh,
Marking.
refreshing the paint and stuff.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, because they had the two trucks and then guys walking in between the two trucks.
But they do periodic
Yeah,
checking of the rails anyway to make sure there aren't any loose plates and stuff like that, so.
yeah, they don't spray
Yeah.
until August.
So I think the fact that they, we've already arranged and set a date for the training and stuff, and they agreed to reimburse the town for the $50 cost on it.
So the training is free, essentially.
In a sense, yeah. Yeah. But again, with what's been going on the railroad corridor on the East Coast, I think it's a very good thing. I always look forward to receiving safety training that will allow me to return from a site visit.
All right, so,
So, yeah, so again, the issuance of the determination of applicability is not directly tied into the fact that they have the paint marks in the appropriate place on the rail corridor. Like I said, that's more just the functional manifestation of them performing the herbicide treatments, that I just wanted to see that was actually in place, because that's the only thing I could think of that
right,
is weather dependent, that might, with lack of maintenance, might not be the clearest thing under the sun. So my understanding is they're on a mobile platform, either a pickup truck or something else that then has
no,
the wheels on it.
no, it's actually a work car.
Oh, is it a work car?
Yeah.
Well, I know it rides the rails.
Yeah,
And I
goes out
know,
at night.
and I know it's something that moves along or whatever, that's powered,
And it's got booms and
and
they
they're
spray it
doing
out.
the application and stuff, so.
But they do it at night because they don't pay for lights,
Well,
obviously, but.
Yeah, they
because
don't
then
want
there's
to
no other.
interfere with any active.
I can't do it in breezy conditions either.
Nope.
Yeah.
With that being said, I would move a negative determination number 5, citing 310 CMR 10.036B and 310 CMR 10.586A as the exemptions.
Anybody second that?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. And I'll keep the commission apprised when we do actually do the field visit. Yeah, I got the one that goes.
Oh,
Fun share. If you want to read the next agenda item, because I
Certainly.
believe it's continued.
yes, it is a continued. The 8:15 item is a continued notice of intent for 524 Newburyport Turnpike, map 19, parcel lot 9, Alexandra Starch, owner of AKA Realty Trust, has proposed restoration of a buffer zone disturbance on a developed site, possibly within a 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands.
So, the commission had discussed this application in a previous meeting. This is the Agawam
Fence.
fence complex on Newburyport Turnpike, just across from Olive's Cafe. And we had requested a revision to the submitted restoration plan, mainly to the nature of the 1997 determination of applicability. It called for a hedgerow planting in this location. And so the restoration plan has been revised to add, I believe it's gray dogwoods, I think, in that location as not exactly lined up as soldiers, but it's going to be, in a sense, a double wide row to mark the 25-foot no cut, no disturbance area. And then the impacted no cut, no disturbance area that goes further to the northwest is also going to be restored with a more scattered planting. These shrub species were originally proposed, and so they've just been, the alignment has been manipulated a little bit to come into agreement with that 1997 decision. There also will be posts with the no cut, no disturbance signage, which will be field determined as to their locations. They're sort of roughly spaced where we believe they should be appropriate right now. We did receive communication from the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, showing both under the Wetlands Protection Act and under the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act that they didn't have a problem with the project. I think I used their exact terminology in the memorandum. The project as proposed will not adversely affect the actual resource area or habitat of state protected rare wildlife species, nor will it result in a take of state listed rare species. So the survey plan of existing conditions of the property was also revised with a few comments and has the highlighted no cut, no disturbance area on it. And so unless any of the commissioners have any other concerns or thoughts in regards to this, I'm offering a recommendation that you may wish to consider closing the hearing and voting to issue an order of conditions with special conditions appropriate for a commercial project and restoration of buffer zone area.
Do I hear that? Hear a motion to that extent?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you, it's unanimous. I did receive an email from Ms. Starch saying she was unable to attend tonight and asking about the specificity of the species, whether the exact ones had to be obtained. Our normal course of action in that is to see what's available from nurseries that carry native species, and then if the availability is somehow impacted, to consult with their wetlands consultant and make an adjustment. Just usually that's done through the office.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to return to come before the commission. I.e., if there are certain species of dogwood isn't available, we might adjust things to possibly incorporate sweet pepper bush, something like that, if that's
As long as
appropriate.
it's a
for
native,
that
yeah.
habitat. Yeah, as long as it's native and as long as it's also appropriate for the buffer zone in close proximity to the wetlands, which usually means it might be facultative upland as opposed to facultative wet. to the next continued item. We received an email today.
Would you like me to read this?
Yes, please.
Hi Brent. Please accept this email as our formal request to continue the public hearing for the above property scheduled for tonight to your meeting to Wednesday, May 11th. If you have any questions, please give me a call. John Moran Group. I guess that explains
Yeah,
that.
this is Mr. Dunn
Yeah.
for his notice of intent application for 968 Hazel Street.
Is this a Wednesday because of town meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, Tuesday are town elections, actually.
I will so move that it be continued to May 11th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Which is a good segue to a reminder that we do have a Wednesday meeting. Doesn't happen very often, but it usually only happens exactly in this situation with the fact that we happen to hit town elections, and so that we won't conflict.
I will not be there.
Yes.
It's on this town meeting too.
And with your lovely permission, I will be departing the next day for Points West. Okay, let's continue.
You on vacation? Good.
Point south.
Good.
Do you just want to read from the
Yes.
agenda, the next item, 128?
Okay, this is the 8:45 PM item. It was a new request for a certificate of completion for SMP number 13, 2014 for 128 Daniels Road, map 9, parcel 32, lot 1, Carl Sear, construction of a gravel access road, tree cutting, stumping, grading, and the establishment of lawn and gardens as landscaping improvements. Approximately 45,000 square feet of disturbance to a single-family house lot.
Goodness.
This inadvertently came to the commission with the start as being a notice of violation from a phone call from a neighbor who was concerned about tree cutting that was occurring behind their property, which turned out was on Mr. Sears' property. And a logger he had hired from Maine was apparently not well-versed in checking to see if there were appropriate town bylaws that might possibly be impacting the project, and he had built, I think it was roughly a 600-foot dirt woods road that happened to skim just a tiny little piece of buffer zone, but the more important aspect is that this project, by its amount of square footage, actually triggered our stormwater and erosion control bylaw. And it triggered it not because the commission seeks to regulate quote-unquote agricultural activity or the harvesting of wood products, but it turned out there was no submitted forestry management plan for this property, that the proposal was, and a forest harvesting plan would not have been appropriate because this was for the clearing and stumping of the property, not for generating wood products or seeking to sustain and keep the production of wood products going on the property. So it was a land clearing operation that was of such a nature and extent that it triggered the jurisdiction of the stormwater and erosion control bylaw, because it actually, I think, ended up being, our trigger is 20,000 square feet, and I think this came to be something like 45,000.
45,000, right?
Yeah. And so I inspected it today, because it was basically a large landscaping job. At the time, he had no proposal for doing any structures or whatever. The only part of the project that wasn't straight clearing was the establishment of a dirt woods road that gained access to this
Can I ask a
wood.
question? Do you have a map of where this is or no?
I'm trying to figure that out.
Because I think I know where it is. I think it's behind my son's
Right
property.
behind
So
my
do I
house.
need to,
Oh,
walk out of here, right?
single family house.
What?
Well, the
Yeah,
fill,
good clear.
He's asking
No.
for these recusals.
Do I?
You're not a direct abutter and you have no financial interest in this, do you?
Okay, I think I know where it is, and like I said, it is behind, near my son's property there, so. As long as, I just don't want him to take any chances, or put us in any,
And it's probably to say that, but I don't think it's.
okay, just want to know.
It's gonna,
Yeah, hold on just a second here.
have a map?
Yeah.
working on it.
I think I know exactly where it is.
So Daniels Road is at the top, and that's one of the parts of Emily Lane that's also in the upper right-hand corner. And so there's a small amount of frontage, 125 feet of frontage.
Yeah.
But then as I scroll down, you'll see is it's the yellow bounded property.
Mhm.
So there's a number of houses that have frontage along Daniels Road, who's actually the rear of them is where the forested part of this property. The primary residence of Mr. Sear is actually directly adjacent to map 930
Yep.
that you can see there. So you come in, make the little dog leg, and then on the terrain is, it's higher ground. Well, you can kind of tell, you can see the wetlands area with the 500-year floodplain indicated on the abutting property, so you can surmise that it slopes down to there. So his driveway came in, the dirt road was established here, it went down into here, and then large section of clearing down in there. It was all forested, and there was no sign of any bordering vegetated wetlands on Mr. Sears' property at all. So there wasn't the need for any wetlands permitting, but I'm actually not sure about the hatching and stuff that's there. I'd have to look up what that is. But that is not floodplain, it's not a wet area. So anyway, walked the site with Mr. Sear today. Project is all done. Property's been appropriately stumped and graded. It's probably 80 to 95% vegetated. It's all stable. There's no signs of any gullying, rilling, anything like that. He appropriately implemented erosion control when we first contacted him and stuff, but then he had a falling out with his logger because his logger didn't really want to appropriately do the erosion control stuff or whatever. He just wanted to do the clearing and just haul the wood
They're
products.
tougher in Maine, actually.
What did he use to vegetate over then? Did you just put ryegrass out or something?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, probably just a conservation mix, they call it, I think. He was on a beat seeding it again. He's established a fairly large garden in the center of it, and actually he's talking with the planning board right now about permitting for a large barn structure, much closer in the relationship to where his residence is on the higher portion of the site. But he just wanted it open. He started to plant some fruit trees out there and stuff, so he just does gardening on a little larger scale than you and I.
So he's requesting certificate.
Requesting a certificate of completion, closing the project, and my recommendation would be that it would be appropriate to issue it.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on this? No.
I don't have any more.
Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
So if you were hesitant about being involved with
Yeah.
the discussion, usually there's a chance to accuse yourself.
I thought there was something like that.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know if I should be doing it in this particular case. Yeah, I think that's my son's property, is that 843? I think that's
Not
or
direct-
846.
Not a direct butter.
Not a direct, he's not a direct abutter.
Yeah, I actually did.
Something
Maybe
else.
down one. You can see it,
It was Bob.
Nobody will remember.
and we could hear it.
What?
Bob seconded. That's
Oh,
what you're asking.
you're asking who seconded it? Yeah. Well, I remember the discussion when it first came up, yeah, there was a lot of trees that came
There were
up.
a lot of trees.
You
It's
can't
his land,
see it from the road.
Exactly.
it's his land. He
Exactly.
can do what he wants to do.
Yeah, but with the.
Within the
With the
constraints.
proper permitting.
Yes.
Again, in this case, it was appropriate to review the project for installing erosion control, because there definitely were some portions that needed it, and it was appropriate.
Okay. My goodness.
I'm gonna set a record tonight.
So,
That
next
hay,
item on the agenda,
he actually was cutting hay. McDonald's,
right, continues, we haven't actually gotten the certificate of compliance request yet, but
but
they did arrange the final inspection is going to occur tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So all the catch basins have been cleaned, the entire curb has been exposed on the access road that goes by Institution for Savings, Haverhill Street, goes to the back drive-through window side of the site. All the catch basin drain outflows have all been cleaned out, all been exposed. All the riprap has been replaced. On the far southern side of the site, the first catch basin where you come in the entrance off of Route 1 Newburyport Turnpike, and that catch basin in the corner goes into a lateral line that stays within the parking area, goes to a manhole about halfway back on the property where the parking lot actually makes a little jog, and at that manhole the drain pipe makes a 90-degree angle and went to an outlet that when they cleaned out the accumulated silt and freed up opening that discharge point, they discovered that it was at the same elevation as Batchelder Meadow, where the water was. So they called me out to the site early last week, and requested to be able to, well, the question was, how do we make this work? Because they said they could replace the riprap, scoop that all out, but Batchelder Meadow came up anymore like a spring flood or whatever, that it would flow and backflow into catch basin outlet, which that doesn't make any sense, not supposed to do that. And so what they proposed to do was go into the manhole, put a new outlet pipe at a slightly higher elevation to discharge into the same cleaned out outlet area that they had re-riprapped or whatever. I believe that's what I'm going to be shown tomorrow. I'm going to be shown the completed project.
So they're continuing the use of the pipe in the outflow area with the riprap and so on, but they're raising
Raising the
where it
outlet.
comes out
the
of the
outlet
outlet
level.
to
The
in
discharge.
essence form a barrier.
Well,
to
to
come in.
keep, so in the manhole, they block and plug up the original
Right.
outlet,
Right,
and they raise and they cut a new opening
right.
a little higher. So in a sense, they're gonna create kind of a sump in that manhole.
A
Yeah,
deeper
deeper.
sump now.
It-
Deeper
Yeah.
sump in that manhole,
and they're gonna keep, or so the situation won't occur unless there's substantial flooding in Batchelder Meadow. It will have to come up, I think they raised it 16 inches, I think, is what they proposed to raise it.
I went out there after I'd spoken to you about the big machine, and they did an excellent job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they've been very, very diligent, and they wanted, you know, and so their mandate was to return it to a functioning stormwater system, and that would not have qualified as being a functioning outlet if water from the wetlands was able to backflow into the drain outlet.
You might get that when across from Bentley Warren's opens up.
Well, anyway,
That's Ipswich.
but that's flowing to the Ipswich River, that's flowing out of
No.
Rowley down there by Bentley Warren.
It goes under the road right at the golf, between Bentley's and the golf course, and that's what's plugged up. So if you drive down the road,
Right.
I drain this
But you
side.
didn't listen to what I was saying.
Yeah.
That flows south, that flows to the Ipswich River watershed.
Yeah, it doesn't.
That doesn't
back
flow
to-
into the
back
Parker
to-
River watershed. That's flowing the other direction.
Well,
There's a watershed divide down there
There
near
is.
John Coughlin's Forest Ridge project.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a watershed divide there. Part of Batchelder, at a certain point down there, it flows to the Ipswich River. It flows south, it doesn't flow north.
Because when I first did Bentley's, it went up at the institution.
Yeah.
So I just figured it was,
No, there's actually a watershed divide down there somewhere. I don't
Yeah.
exactly know where it is, but
maybe
it's
I'll
there.
Google it.
Yeah.
So this will have to be continued to the next meeting.
Until it's done.
Yeah, because Rags, the professional engineer with Rags said that, you know, he wanted to be able to stamp that everything was done right, and so,
Because of the cost, I imagine they've learned their lesson.
well,
But
I think they
third or
also, I
fourth
think
time
this
they've
is,
been before us
I
since they've
think
been
this
built,
is also
so I'm
sort
not sure about
of
that.
been instructional for the franchise owner too, I think.
I had an interesting situation. I was flying to Florida a week ago Saturday. I'm sitting in the waiting area next to a couple guys and getting in to them. Oh, where are you guys? We're heading down to a McDonald's conference. It was this guy's sons.
Oh.
And they were telling me, they said they were just taken by surprise. They'd never had, they own like 5 or 6 stores. They'd never had anything like this before, and said,
Really?
we're gonna take care of it. That was
Yeah.
their words, so.
Well, that's good.
I will move we continue this to the next meeting, if that's what you're looking for.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I-
Great. So we're making progress.
That brings us to status reports.
Don't have anything further.
This is gonna be a record.
Yeah.
I kinda like it.
Don't stay in the way, I'm not gonna stand in the
Do I
way
hear
of
a
the record,
motion to-
no questions.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.